Okay, this video is in regards to new friend AM77punk, who it says religion is lies and bullshit, and I don't really know how to address that exactly because, of course, I understand materialistic belief that doesn't believe in an afterlife or things like this, but just to begin, because it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Just to begin to see what religion is and what it isn't. Sam Harris, I completely agree with him and Christopher Hitchens. And, the term religion is like sports. It doesn't mean anything. Sports like badminton, and then you have sports like Thai kickboxing. What's where's the commonality? The only thing they have in common is breathing, you know. And then look at another sport like swimming. I mean, there's no one is inherently violent. One's just silly, and one's natural. Swimming and running are just natural acts. Just we can do it faster. Religion arises from if you look at the earliest religions, stories of morality and how to lead your life, pretty much from different small tribal groups and their ideas, usually on what come encapsulated as their perspective of the universe. And it's not necessarily gods, because not every religion has a god. We see Buddhism, see things like Taoism that, yeah, gods, but the gods aren't really important. And even philosophy up until Enlightenment, the Stoics and the Epicureans considered religions. So we know religion exists. That part of it's not bullshit. And we know that there's cultures. People have their cultural identity, and that's usually stuck in religion in some cases, such as Judaism. Even if you're an atheist, you're still going to say you're a Jew because that's the culture. Hinduism is a word that only refers to the culture and not the religion, but yet in America we refer to it as the religion and not the culture. Because Hinduism started out as monotheistic, believing one life and then an afterlife, and then it became polytheistic, many gods, and then it became polytheistic with reincarnation, and then it became pantheistic with reincarnation, and now we see it as guru worship, guru followers, basically. Sai Baba, Hare Krishna, people like this. And and Mr. Hitchens even says that, in areas like Chicago, for example, the largest Greek community in the United States, we have largest Polish community in the United States, actually largest Polish community in the world, with the exception of Warsaw. People like the Polish Catholics and the Greek Orthodox, it's a way to preserve their culture. Now, even Christianity has the same thing. If you look at it, it's basically like concentric rings, like the Olympic rings. You can see all of them, but this one over here links to this one, which kind of has common with this, but doesn't have common with this. But it's a very strange idea. And while I do agree that mythology, I believe mythology is very important. I believe it's bullshit when people take that mythology and believe in it. And say not believe in it, because it's good to believe in mythology, parables and such, allegory, stories. Um, but I think the part of the religion I despise is when people say that it's historical, historical, like factual, that it had to happen that way, or when people take it and say God told me this, and therefore I'm better than other people. And I think all this pretty much springs from arrogance, because even if somebody, let's say, believes the first ten chapters of Genesis, it doesn't really affect you. Who cares? They believe that that's fine. They just can't separate allegory from history. So it's the arrogance. It's when people say no, others have to believe it, and it should be taught, and you're an idiot if you don't. That part of it is bullshit. Now, Islam is very peculiar in this fact, in that it's a manufactured religion. Christianity had a long line of descending from Judaism, and then you have this teacher called Jesus. Nothing was written down about him for about 30 years. It was only tradition. Again, as I say, it was just called the way or the path. And Christians were called the followers of the way, and they became Christians in Antioch. And then there was a dispute between what they should believe. There were different holy books, and the Christianity that we recognize culminates around the Council of Nicaea, or I should say, it's encapsulated in that you have this in Hinduism, you have this in Buddhism. But what makes it excessively dangerous, Islam, is that you have one man who wrote, who his sayings were compiled immediately after his death, and he used the pronouncement that he got all of his messages from an angel to go out, conquer, raid, and it's funny how he received his messages, because every time Muhammad uh, received his messages, it was after some dispute. Somebody would be arguing with him, I'm right, no, you're wrong, I'm right, no, you're wrong. And all of a sudden, boom, the angel would appear but it wouldn't appear because nobody could see it. He'd get some type of epileptic seizure, and he'd say, oh, well, guess what? The angel told me that I was right. He wanted to have sex with his daughter-in-law. So suddenly the angel appeared and said, oh, your adopted son is not actually your son, because unless it was breastfed by, your wife, then, so you can have sex with him. The angel always came to give him whatever he wanted, and it always came to condemn other people. This is totally manufactured. Um, and this was we share a common thread, me and him, being both raised Muslims. So I have no, I understand when he says religion is bullshit and this and that. This view of it. Uh, but I don't know if this statement, because religion does exist. It's not a lie. It's actually a very potent force in the world today, a very dangerous one. And you can't really separating out culture and religion. I mean, if you go to Europe and meet the Lutherans over there, they don't. I mean, again, they could basically be almost atheists or somewhat materialists. You go to the seminaries of the Methodists, they don't hold any of the creeds of Christendom. Most of them don't believe Jesus was God, the virgin birth. It's the same thing with the Episcopals. So religion is just a function. It's you know, if you look at sociology, um, things like environmentalism, communism can be voices of religion. Environmentalism, I get that from Michael Crichton, made that point. But I think some people see religion as inherently being against women, as inherently being anti-gay. anti-homosexual, anti-transgender, anti-human rights. If you know me, that's none of my belief systems carry that. And people think this is new or liberal. Well, where I get this from is not new or liberal. It's pretty ancient, and it's spelled out that way. And again, we can look to fertility cults and see they actually had a worship of women. There were different branches of religion that didn't have any sexual mores. You can look at ancient Greece. There were no morals given about sexuality at all. The morals came from the state. And many of the gods and goddesses that existed back in the day didn't have moral codes along with them. You just had to placate them, which I think is bullshit. But if we see religion as non-materialism, and not viewing everything from saying, well, the end justifies the means. As long as you get to the afterlife, or at least a good afterlife, then any way you get there is fine. And that's how it should be. That should be your main goal. Because that's how the Quran operates. It's to get to paradise. So you can kill, murder, lie, steal, cheat, do all that. Because their main concern is placating a very arrogant God, and the goal is, to get to the afterlife. And they even say, oh, those who disbelieve in the afterlife, as if that were something that's not good. It's a very good thing for many people not to believe in the afterlife, at least initially, because it'll fuck up your whole life. It'll mind fuck you too. It'll just screw everything up. So if somebody else were to come on here and say religion, blah blah blah, I might not act so kindly, but I know where this person's coming from. And when I said no, it's mythology. It's not necessarily bullshit. When I mean mythology, I mean the basis of it, the myths, to get to a greater truth. Now, historically, we know somebody named Muhammad existed because he cut a swath of violence, just a path of destruction across the Middle East. And there's good evidence that a man named Jesus did, because there's shitloads of documentation. And again, we can see that pedophile Sai Baba. We can go over there and see he existed. But I think the important point is to point out what's bullshit about it. Because if you attack it just generally, you don't really get anywhere. You kind of just piss people off and they become more entrenched. Like if I were a fanatical Christian, I heard that I'd become more entrenched and say, well, you're going to hell, how can you hate this and this? And I'd assume that you like many of the fanatical Protestants think you were, kind of like the communists that wanted to just basically murder old women who prayed to, Jesus, or, go smash babies that were, unbaptized. And I don't mean communists, I mean Soviets. So it's good to call that out. To be more specific is a better way to get through the chainmail, the armor that the fanatics put on. If you point it out, that's why in Islam I attack points. I don't say Islam is blah, blah, blah. When I say Islam is this, then say because A, B, C, and D. So I would encourage this person to make videos and point that out. They can help in the struggle against Islam. And they should talk about that halal meat is horrible. Shouldn't kill animals that way. Treatment of homosexuals, women, things like that. We need to fight these specific things. Because when you need to start tearing off their armor. You can't just, basically like throw a stone and think it's just gonna get reactionary. So I'm glad this person AM77 brought this up, and I would encourage them to come on and start making videos against the horrors of religion. Peace.